So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. This iPhone 11 should definitely be considered here in 2022. Now I'm going to explain to you why the iPhone 13 is here is because I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons, a lot of references to this phone, as this is the modern day equivalent to the iPhone 11, but it will cost you $300 to $400 more. And as you max out the storage, it can exceed the $1,000 price tag, which makes the iPhone 11 quite a value proposition right now. The iPhone 11 can be found used for well under $400. You can see $337. You know, the maxes are in the $500-$600 range, so they're around the price, or even cheaper. The iPhone 11 Pro Maxes are cheaper than the iPhone 13. But if you buy this at Apple, you'll find it for around $499 or so it's a little bit more there. The first thing I want to talk about is the 6.1-inch display. Now, the iPhone 13 does feature the same 6.1-inch display. However, it is an OLED, so it's definitely better quality, but it's the same size. So you're getting the same size panel as the iPhone 13 here, which makes this a steal of a deal. Yes, this is not an OLED panel. This is LCD, and that's one of a lot of people's biggest complaints. However, it's a pro. It's a big strength for a lot of people as well who just don't appreciate or don't like OLED technology. They don't like the oversaturated colors for some. Although Apple does tune it to not really be oversaturated, some people still just prefer the way an LCD looks, how it feels to their eye. It's a better display, and you know, it's gone away. We don't see it on any new iPhones these days. So if you really appreciate LCD technology, the iPhone 11 is still a great choice for you. It's still something that should be considered. And why I think it's still kind of relevant that it has an LCD is because your Apple iPad and Mac computers still use the same technology, LCD technology. So it's not like it's some old archaic technology. Yes, in terms of phone game, it is kind of outdated with the OLEDs on pretty much everything now. But I gotta say, it still looks pretty good. I think it's quite nice here. So definitely a very good overall panel, even though it's not an OLED. The next thing is the software here. If you take a look at the software on the iPhone 13, you'll see, you take a look at it on the iPhone 11, it's the same exact thing. So anybody who's using a 13 has no major benefit over you with your iPhone 11, which definitely doesn't look quite as bright as it is a 625 nit display versus this 800 nit. But the only thing that's really different is that in the iPhone 13, you will have the cinematic mode in your camera, which is kind of just a feature I don't think a lot of people are using, but it's still a pretty cool party trick to talk about unless you actually use it for film and stuff like that. But in that case, those people are probably buying the Pro iPhone anyway. The Apple A13 on here with 2.66 gigahertz clock speed, 4 gigabytes of RAM performs like a champ. There's really no issues I have with this day to day. I'm just really happy with how it performs. You can even run games and stuff like that. And being that this phone is still on the latest software and it came out in 2019 is pretty awesome. And what's even more awesome is that this phone still has several years left of software updates. We have at least 3 to 4. So buying this phone right now is still relevant. It's kind of insane. Although it doesn't have 5G and stuff like that, it still has relevant software coming for many years to come. So you could buy this now and not feel like your phone's going to get left behind. Next thing is the cameras. We have a dual 12 megapixel setup on both. Obviously, with those bigger lenses on the 13, they will be quite a bit better with the low light performance. However, these are still really good. Ever since the iPhone 11, I thought Apple was really stepping up their game with the camera. The ultra wide angle, far more useful for a lot of people. The video quality in here, 4K 60 on the front and the rear. This was a huge year for the iPhone, and this camera here on the front is still just about as good as the iPhone 13. So man, I'm just very happy with how well this camera has aged. It's pretty incredible the kind of performance you can get out of this camera. I mean, if you know what you're doing and you're really good at what you do, you could probably shoot a whole movie on this phone. I'm not even kidding. 4K 60 is strong. The focus is on point. I've covered it in my Should You Buy iPhone 11 in 2022 video, all the camera samples. Go check out that one if you want to see that. But man, the camera definitely should still be considered. Next, Face ID is still relevant, and it's getting an update with 15.4 where they're going to allow you to go ahead and swipe in with a mask on. But you can see the iPhone 13 unlocks very nicely, as does the iPhone 11, pretty quick as well. And this also is still 60 hertz. I forgot to mention that. Still 60 hertz, so there's no 120 hertz here for the 13. So the 11 still has a similar smooth factor as the iPhone 13. Next up is the 11 was a very impressive phone when it comes to battery life. So the battery health on mine still 100. This battery capacity is over 3000 milliamp. It's actually a larger physical battery than the one in the iPhone 13 Pro, which we also know is a very good battery life, and it's bigger than this one as well. However, you'll find that in certain areas, the 13 might outlast the 11, but in other areas, the 11 might outlast this. For example, in some video playback, you might get better battery here, but maybe when you're not using video playback, you might get better battery here. So this is a very strong battery life. It definitely easily gets through the day. Some people would probably be able to stretch this a day and a half on the iPhone 11. It's that good, the battery life. And because it's using 4G LTE, it kind of makes up for the fact that this has a more efficient Apple A15 Bionic because this uses 5G. So I'd say these are quite similar in the battery department, the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 11. In addition, the audio performance is also quite similar. The 11 retains that, stereo sound setup with the top speaker firing out here and over here as well. So definitely quite nice, pretty loud as well. It's not much different actually than the current iPhone 13. It still gets a pretty good decibel rating overall. So I gotta say, man, there's just not a lot really that the iPhone experience upgraded here besides having the squared edges, the improved cameras. It's not too much. I feel like the pros are getting more of the major upgrades than the regular standard iPhones these days. That's what it feels like to me. And if you hold out to the 14, they'll probably get rid of the notch this year. Maybe get a little, punch hole, some type of thing with Face ID in it. Maybe a pill. That's what we're seeing with the rumors. But iPhone 11 is still pretty good. And should you consider the iPhone 11, look at all those color options. You got purple, green, yellow, white, black, red, like tons of colors here. I went with the neutral white color at the time. Pretty nice overall color, the white, but some people might like the purple. Some people might like the green. You might like the yellow. There's a lot of options here for you in terms of color choice. That's pretty sweet. And they might even have a color on here that you prefer over the current 13. Although I will say they're a little bit lighter on the 11. They're not quite as deep. If you want more of a deep, vibrant color, you'll probably like the 10R's colors or maybe even the iPhone 13's colors. So at the end of the day, besides like not having 5G, the LTE may be a setback for some people. However, I think it's still going to be pretty relevant for a while because 5G, I still haven't seen ridiculous, crazy fast 5G. The design, if you're picky about having squared edges, this just won't work for you. That's a fact as well of life here. So you'll definitely have to be okay with the rounded edges. Personally, I prefer the rounded edges. They just feel better in the hand. It just wraps in your hand better. It's just an overall nicer feel. I actually think the looks are better on the squared, but I prefer how this feels in the hand, so it's quite nice. But it's a bigger phone with thicker bezels than the current iPhone 13. I don't think there's much you're really giving up if you decide to consider a iPhone 11. Maybe the camera's not to the top level. It should absolutely be considered. Now, if you want to see a little bit more about the iPhone 11, a little bit more in detail, go check out my Should You Buy iPhone 11 in 2022 video. I made that about a month ago where I'll show you camera samples and more. But as of now, I still have to recommend this. I still have to say this should be considered for sure. What do you think? The iPhone 11, you think it should go away already? You've heard enough about it? Are you ready for like an SE3 to give you maybe a bigger body, maybe a phone like this style with newer specs? Let me know down below in the comment section. Let's talk about it. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well and peace.